All right, good morning and welcome to our channel. I'm starting an early video today because I've got a lot to do, and after nearly a month of search for somebody to help clean our office and home, I finally think I found somebody. All right, so on to the news here. So for Section 8 housing, we've talked through November and most of this year in many of our videos about some of the changes coming for 2026. Before we get into that, I'm going to tell you who I am. My name is Jay. I'm the owner of Section8Consulting.com, and we work with clients around the country. I'm close to retirement, but still helping many out there that we can, and will continue to do through part of my retirement on short calls and simple cases. Anyways, moving on from there, 2026, let's talk about that just quickly. A lot of changes coming pre-October 1st. So for the beginning of the year, we have a rather serious circumstance behind homeless housing. That is permanent supportive housing, rapid rehousing, and emergency housing vouchers will be defunded approximately by 70%, creating a circumstance where likely up to 1 million people will be kicked out of housing, lose their temporary vouchers, and may have to find other housing solutions. My office will be working as much as I can to help as many as I can through that process, starting they're sending out notifications now. And most of you can check Google News. If you type in Google News, you'll see that there are city, states, and local government there are hundreds of articles in almost every city in America where anywhere from a couple hundred to a couple thousand people are being kicked out of their homes or getting notices already. So they're ramping this up in preparation for January. So you or a loved one may be affected by this. And so we need to look at different housing solutions, possibly migrate you out of that system into a housing choice voucher, which there's some potential for that next year. The important thing to understand is no matter how much the cut is in terms of federal funding from Congress, at the beginning of the year is quite appropriate to try, because let me tell you, the beginning of the year, January, February, March, April, May, and up to about May, that's when peak demand is very low. And so despite funding and cuts, that's the best time to approach this. Where you make critical mistakes is when you get in June, July, August, those 3 months. That's when peak demand's at its highest. So technically, the market conditions are rather ideal, regardless of funding, for people to transition out of continuum of care programs, or rapid rehousing, permanent supportive housing, and other programs that may be supported at state level. In other words, guys, you got to start transitioning because they're likely not to support this the next couple of years. And so we're watching a systematic failure of a lot of nonprofits that are handling the cases in terms of continuum housing, and those of you in support of housing. I imagine the fallout will roll in around 3 waves. There will be the beginning wave of notification. That's where people will leave willingly. The second wave will be likely late spring. That will be where many people will face evictions, court judgments. And then the final volley will be for the beginning to end of summer, where those that had the money to fight this will likely attempt to fight it, may hire a consultant or an attorney to represent them through court. And then, of course, we deal with that as it comes. They're transitioning. Their hope is to transition everybody to TH, which is transitional housing. Problem with that is people have kids, children, and pets, and they have property. You can't. So the focus is moving from that type of housing strictly to, treating everybody as if they're a drug addict and putting them in transitional housing. Okay, that's simply not going to work for seniors, disabled, veterans, and everybody else. So the solution is poorly thought out. Not only that, but many of the transitional housing buildings, support systems are in place in most cities do not and have already turned down funding from HUD regarding that. They don't even want to do it. And not only that, but transitional housing was around for a long time, and we already kind of got rid of most of it. So the infrastructure is not in place. So that's going to put additional pressure on Section 8 housing and housing authorities around America. Now, post going forward, I should say after, not post, we're looking at a circumstance where the administration will run through the congressional level to get approval to put time limits and work requirements on HCB or housing choice vouchers. And those time limits will extend also to subsidies and subsidized housing and other programs. So, since there isn't anything politically stopping this really from rolling through, then you should expect late year that they're going to probably implement that. And that's not also to include the new announcements for 2026. This was the first wave of actions by the administration to make cuts to possibly address national debt or other agendas. But we should also expect that there will be continuing changes as the system evolves for housing and vouchers under this administration, and that they're going to revisit it again, and we're going to hear further possible cuts and also consolidation of the system, including HUD. Look, to be clear, HUD, before President Trump took office, HUD was 10,000 employees. It is 90% cut now. There's barely anybody left. HUD's building was sold. They're now pretty much in an office space, a little small office space. Funding across the board for Section 8 and housing programs has been cut roughly 41% for 2026. And for most homeless housing, which operates on a separate program, continuum of care, and CES, or coordinated entry system, that is going from 80% to roughly 20%. And then most people are going to receive notices to vacate or eviction at this point, with a relative few being able to utilize it. Now, but that opens up new opportunities. Don't be fooled. And again, the wondrous thing about policies and procedures and administrative plans that they use through nonprofits and housing authorities doesn't mean that there's not going to be loopholes and gray areas. Okay, so my office is already carefully looking at the plan and how they plan on rolling that out. And I'm almost certain, like all good things, when it first comes out, it'll be filled with holes that we'll be able to work with clients to get through. But they're going to be a little bit more discerning for sure in terms of who they're going to allow to have housing, how long they're going to have it, if there are other requirements. And as HUD has stated on its website, they're no longer in the business of dealing with the homeless. Okay, they've made that very clear. That they just want people to solve their drug and mental health issues. So they're framing the whole thing as drugs and mental health, and they want everybody in TH or transitional housing. And then after you complete the term of up to 18 months, you're not guaranteed 18 months. You're guaranteed from the beginning for as long as they feel like dealing with you. And then after that, you're kicked out and you cannot revisit it. So that's not a very good solution, as it would probably put millions on the street in addition to millions more, tens of million more through the cuts following for 2026. So it's a lot to deal with. But good news is people like myself that have existed, as a company, 26 years. I tell you one thing for sure. There's nobody that's going to work through my office to get housing that's going to be left on that street. Now, for those of you that want to do it your way, get out there and test spade, go ahead. But there's a will, there's a way. Okay. A big part of being a consultant at the federal level is being able to understand how to exclusively get around the rules and policies to, favorably for clients. In other words, I'm not trying to cheat the system, but it's my job to serve my clients, not HUD, not the housing authority, and not COC. So in the interest of my own clients, if there's a 20% chance they're only going to allow funding for 20% of the people, I can assure you I'm pushing my people through one way or another. I'm not leaving nobody on the sidewalk in cars or otherwise. So we're closely examining rules and policies, and we're waiting further to get more information from companies like Nan and McKay, which underwrite all the policy procedures for many of the PHAs and other programs out there. I'm also in close contact with many of our contacts, which are former directors of housing authorities, former employees, and people that administrated at top level on COC or continuum of care programs and other federal subsidies to figure out the easier path for you guys. But the problem is I'm only one person in one company. There aren't a lot of me left. There's only a handful of companies left that deal in terms of tenant direct. In other words, people that either need housing or already have it and are trying to defend it. So with only a handful of us left, after all these years, you can only rescue so many people. So that's just the reality of it. Um, my office have seen a very high call volume the past week, and it isn't because of the government shutdown. I think we're all starting to get these notices, and a lot of my clients are worried. They're people calling every day now, and the numbers are growing by the day in terms of people reaching a desperate point because they don't know what else to do in terms of housing. So I'm trying to address as many as I can, but thing about it is I can't service tens of thousands of people across 50 states. There's a limit to what I can do. So I'm looking and evaluating the calls and clients and people that are requesting services to determine what might be the best clear action that we can take going into 2026. Another thing I want to mention today, guys, I take, our casework at the peak of this. Keep in mind, pre-pandemic, okay, we had very reasonable prices here at the company. You guys were paying like at one point $399 for casework. Okay, that was for like 8 months to a year. Okay, it was very inexpensive, and it rose. And then the pandemic happened, and demand became so extreme that I was working crazy hours. And so pricing went as high as $1,200 to service a client over a 1 year period. And you notice the times changed as well. It became longer and harder, 4 or 5 times harder to get clients vouchers. The good news is, with all the acclimation of the system and trying to figure out new rules and policies, we now have casework back down to 6 months and costs rolling about an average of 600, though that price may go up slightly to 700, but it's still reasonable. 6 months at $100 a month means that our office literally is working for copper pennies. But keep in mind, it's like many other things. Casework does all work together through multitudes of clients. In other words, symptomatically, what we're doing in order to achieve results, chase down vouchers, or deal with housing authorities to expedite the process can be used unilaterally across multiple clients. So it's not so bad. Another change we're going to be making also short calls. That all ended up going 15 minutes for like $55. And so that's going to be changed today. Service calls for short calls will be 20 minutes and it will be reduced to 45, which I think is more than reasonable for me to sit on the phone for 20 minutes. Okay. A lot of you, I should remind you that, 20 minutes is a long time to speak. And part of the reason I had to shorten it during the pandemic is, look, after a while you go deaf tone, and the phone that rings. You have appointments, and you eventually just get tired of hearing people talk, and so I had to create a way to slow people down and have shorter appointments. Since things are calmer now, we can allow more time at less cost, provided that people stay within the perimeter granted there and not run those calls to an hour. I've been highly liberal and allow a lot of you guys roll into 30, 40, 50 minutes conversation with only paying me for 15 minutes. We're going to try to stick to the clock, because it creates, look, if you had to be on the phone at Pizza Hut all day, the last thing you want to do is have people talk in your ear for 12 hours. It's hard on the head. It creates massive headaches. So we're going to be a little bit more restrictive about that, because I'm getting older, and frankly, I cannot do 13 hours of calls a day. Okay. I do handle all my own casework. We do still have administrative staff, and we'll have so all the way till January before I let most of them go for my partial retirement, which means I'll be very selective about cases and also the conversations and lengths that we have. Okay. So moving on from there, want to wish everybody a happy tidings for the seasons. Okay. Whether you practice anything or you're a complete atheist, it makes no difference. It's the holiday season. I'm going to remind you guys to care and love for your pets and animals, as well as your family and friends, to resolve old grudges, and try to pull yourself together for the new year. It's a time of year to remind us that though it's not much difference for us that are older, it's still a good reminder that the new year is coming and we should try to do better. So that being said, I want to bring up some weather here too. I live down south, and clearly as a federal consultant, anytime you deal at the federal level, one thing I make clear to clients is I service clients in all 50 states. It's not a state program we're dealing with. We're dealing with a federal program. And through those years, quarter of a century doing this, I've dealt with every state in the U.S., including Puerto Rico. We're not locked into one zip code or one county. Even in practice as a consultant at the federal level, it means you'd have to have a fine understanding of policy, procedure, administrative plans, Nana McKay training, and also Title 24 rights, responsibilities, and also your amendments, which guard and protect your rights as American to not be discriminated against, and so on and so forth. And we work with a lot of law firms that, well, they most geniusly practice law for those that have problems and can pay. It's interesting how a lot of law firms and independent lawyers don't practice the specific portions of federal law that actually address people that don't have a great deal of money. And so you can just consider me a cheap strip mall lawyer, though I'm not an attorney, but I'm damn good with federal law. And so a lot of them, a lot of attorneys actually contact my office to help their paralegals push through on the federal rules, help quickly identify. And so, though I probably should have gone to law school at this point, I didn't. So, but I'm quite effective. Beyond that, the weather. Let's get on that business here. As a Southerner down here in Texas, we're expecting right around Thanksgiving, there's going to be a powerful vortex pushing down through the U.S. And I thought I'd bring it up because any chance I get to get a snowflake out here where it never snows, I'm always excited. So there's going to be some really extreme temperatures dropping throughout the U.S. coming from up through Canada. So we have a high on the West Coast, we have a low on the East Coast, and so the jet that's up there around the top of the Earth is pushing down, it's breaking open, and it appears it's dropping two parts of the country. And so it's all over. I was unaware. I was actually on YouTube. Not only do I make YouTube videos for a company, but I was on YouTube and I was wondering why there were so many damn people making videos about this upcoming thing that's happening. So it appears it's going to drop the whole country into a freeze. Of course, my concerns are down south. We've had it drop down here before. Our infrastructure can't handle ice, snow, and mostly sleet. So a couple of years ago, that happened, and it knocked out the power throughout most of the state of Texas. We're on our own power grid, so I have to be mindful of that because nobody wants people to die. And we had to survive that for 5 days with the temperatures reaching a high of 30 in my home. Imagine sleeping in your walk-in closet with a space heater and running on a generator in your yard for about a week, and then watching as you look out your window and seeing the skyscrapers downtown Houston completely lit up. It means the power companies continue to power the skyscrapers and completely fucked everybody else. Okay, let me just be honest about that. Thankfully, the city government decided to tell the people that own the skyscrapers, if you don't kill the power in those buildings where people can see it, they're going to burn your skyscraper down because you've got 35 million pissed off people. And they're looking at you from Houston and also Fort Worth and Austin. They're looking at your buildings and there's fixing to be a fire sale. So kill the lights. And so respectfully did that because that's the most respectful thing to do. Okay. But it was tough. And, we cooked our dinner with the garage door open, and I had to use a propane tank, and me and the cats generated our own heat in the walk-in closet. So we stuffed our ass in there. I had to purchase Netflix on my phone, and we got through it. But it was bad. We had to go to HEB, which is our grocery store down south in Texas, and we had to go get bags of coal because you could not purchase propane. There was no power to even grocery store. They lost all their food, everything went bad. So we all had to line up at most whatever was out there, but there was no power. Even the cell phone towers that run off generators ran out of power. So you couldn't even make calls. So it was like being in a third world country. Grocery stores will let us go in their dark grocery store because even their generators run out. You couldn't get gas. It was crazy. It reminded me of Hurricane Katrina hitting New Orleans when it shut the power out for 4 months out there. Those people really suffered. We only suffered 5 days, and it drove me mad. So yeah, I watch when we have these weird events with weather. So you guys up north, you're in for a hell of a frosty, and some areas of the country could face up to 100 inches of snow. So though I'm not a meteorologist and I don't do climatology, if they call it that, I would recommend looking into what's going to be happening. But I suspect most of you northern folks you guys can pretty much sit out there in a bathing suit and handle the snow real well. Southern people, here's the problem. It isn't the snow or even the ice. we're a bunch of assholes. We don't know how to drive on a single flake of snow. Okay, each city of Houston, people out here, when they see something different, they freak out. So they will murder you in your car out here trying to get to the gas station or get a propane bottle. That's what I'm worried about. People in Houston know how to drive already. You add snow to that, and they'll kill you on the road. Now, people in the north, or you guys are already trained. You guys can roll through, 90 inches of snow, no problem. Even your 3-year-olds on the snow runner, right? Not out here. Okay, these people are crazy out here, and so that's my concern. Is besides freezing, not having power for a week. And of course, the health and welfare of my animals and pets. And so that's why I bring it to this video for those of you that are viewing us from the southern states. There may be a high potential to see some very extraordinary weather events push all the way through the U.S. down south. And that jet is pushing, it looks like it's going to push all the way through down through Texas. Once it crosses Dallas, if there's a single cloud with water in it, we got sleet, and that stuff is a hot mess. It will jam up our power lines, which are not built for ice hanging off of it, and it'll snap all our poles. You guys up north, you have a different system of setting up your electrical, and you can handle all the ice on your lines that you can take. We're not set up. Neither is our generation plants. And since we're not connected to the U.S. grid in this state, well, all the greedy people that own the electrical companies out here, they don't actually ever service this shit. So that's how you end up in a 4-day blackout. In the end, they end up having to indict people over that. Oh, you want to run a power company, but you don't ever want to service it, and we get hit by a big storm and then knock out the power for an entire state. Absurd. So moving on from there, I'm going to answer some comments here to say hello and good morning. And then we're going to talk about my rescue cat. A lot of you guys have been asking about that. My goal in talking about the cat is because many of you know I'm very inclusive of the health and welfare of animals. It's nothing new on my channel. Many of you have been around for years, and you've seen our cats come and just plop down in the video, even on my keyboard, on my shoulders. I don't train my cats to be entertainers. They live in their own magic world. And if they want something and I'm in a video, they just simply do as they want to do. It's not like I'm training a dog to reach out to your empathy. We're going to give an update about the new cat that doesn't have a name yet. But let me address these comments, guys. So moving on back from the first, Sheila Davidson, good morning. Thank you for coming on back. Oregon Awaken, good morning. I think I just heard roosters crowing. Where I live out here, it's about 10 acres, and behind me is a horse ranch. To the right of me is a small horse ranch. Directly in front of me is a fellow with about 300 sheep. Any given day driving down the street, I may have to come to a complete stop for chickens, turtles, roosters, cows, horses, any number of things you might not expect. And I'm only 15 minutes from the city, okay? So we're like EIEIO out here. And so it's quite fun for the cats, But anyways, moving on. Karen knows, good morning and welcome back. Shab Brasilia didn't get the message there. It looks like YouTube automatically retracted whatever he said. Try rephrasing. Loopholes. People need to remember how to read. Okay, well, that's true. Karen knows, no flip-flop left behind. Guys, that old flip-flop, if you watch some earlier videos, you'll hear about Sally and the flip-flop. We talked about drug addiction and the prostitute with one flip-flop walking through the ditch. It's become almost synonymous joke with my channel, sadly. I even encourage some of you to mail our office flip-flops for Christmas as a quaint reminder. I might hang a flip-flop on my Christmas tree. I can be quite comical in many of my videos. I start my videos with the topic at hand, and about halfway through, we go into personal business. I quite enjoy that, and a lot of people find my sense of humor to be either fun or dry, but they quite enjoy it. God bless says, in Georgia, how could I be your client, 67 years young? Well, let's put up some company information. One thing I always tell my clients is, this is not a company where we just simply have people book appointments. couple things. We're usually under contract with our clients, which we complete all that, which is case management. Second to that, we post all of our federal, state, and county filings. So through state, federal, and county. We give you linkage to all our reviews, and not just selective reviews. You got BBB, you've got Google, you've got more than 500 on our website. That way you're able to look at the reputation of the company. And I've encouraged every single client I've ever spoke to, contact Department of Justice. Let me know if I have any liens, holds, judgments, or otherwise accusations of fraud. Only thing I've got is, I think, 3 complaints against me. Most popular on BBB, back in grandma's day when everybody used BBB. So I've had a few older clients. One complained that I gave her a refund. Now imagine that. I did the most honest thing on the planet. I gave the lady a refund, and she went on there and she had a schizophrenic moment and completely moaned about that. And I was like, good luck to you. I think we had to terminate the case because they decided they were going to threaten my staff. But of course, they spun it their own way. But considering close to 700 reviews, we've had one negative review were on Google with 1 star from somebody that's not even a client. I think they watched the video, hunted down my company name, and decided to give me 1 star. You know that old game. And then one person we had is they failed to disclose they were a sex offender. And of course, the most egregious kind, dealing with children. Well, yeah, I have morals. I terminated that bitch's ass is what I did, because I'm not ever going to service people like that, period. If you abuse animals, pets, women, or seniors, I will kick you out of my fucking office, period. I don't give a shit what the law says. Okay? I have certain limits. I'm not ever going to service you. I don't care if Jesus touched you or not. Will not receive fucking service in this office. And so let them leave that review. I'm good with that. So beyond that, it's been stellar. And be clear, I've served many recovering drug addicts, alcoholics, prostitutes, gang members, but I won't tolerate people do stuff like that. That is a personal limit that I've set for this company, and I will never, ever service people to do that. Okay? Find somebody else. It won't be me. I'm not going to. So I'm going to leave that alone for now. All right. So getting the information you request, I'm going to go ahead and put that up here. So we have appointment software, which is actually launched in the website, and I'm gonna give you the website, give you the reviews and all that good stuff. And if you feel quite appropriate, or you need help, you can't navigate the system, you need help with any number of issues related under Title 24, policy, procedure, your housing authority, your landlord, you got problems, discrimination, harassment, and the thing is, a lot of people will email me always, Jay, well, do you handle this? Let me be clear. I practice all rules under federal housing, okay? So we don't have to parse it out as questioning me to, here are 10 things going on. How many can you help me with? Well, I can help you with all of them, okay? Same thing goes for landlords, law offices. Also, the court system, I've flown around the country, and I have been a witness for many cases where I've had to describe the conditions and federal rules violated by clients in certain circumstances. And second to that, I deal and advise many law firms out in the country. You may also look at our channel and see that I was also speaker for the Legal Aid Society. Now, if 100 attorneys are going to accept my advice, then I must be doing something right. You can also look up the Business Insider that published many articles about my company and what we do, and they've taken my advice. So main media, law firms, and even legal aid societies verifiably through our own channel and looking online that I'm pretty sure I'm very good at my job, okay? So don't contact me and go, well, Jay, I'm skeptical, because I'm going to tell you, you're not skeptical. You have a mental health problem, because if you'd done your research, you'd understand I have a very good reputation, and nor am I reaching that point in my career where I have to prove jack to anybody, okay? I'm at the end of it. So if you've got a mental problem that makes you paranoid, then I suggest a psychiatric visit, okay? Because I'm not going to waste a phone call to sit there and convince anybody of shit. I have enough people calling me. All right, so moving on from that, appointments, information, and reviews. We'll do that right now, and I'll put that in there. Normally I do that beforehand. You can also find that information in the description below and in the comment section after the video's over. So I'm going to link you up, guys. There you go. And I'm going to finish out reviews, and we're going to get to that cat, because many of you want to hear about old Kiki. Okay, Oregon Awakening, you can't leave now. Well, again, it's a partial retirement. I'm not ever going to just quit doing what I do. I'm just suggesting the company itself I'm releasing everybody on January 1st. I will continue to consult privately at that point, but I still will be incorporated. I will still hold licensing, and I'll still have all my filings. It just means that I cannot take 1,000 cases anymore. Okay. I need to be able to go live life at this point. I'm over 50 now, and I don't want to do this full time the rest of my life. I want to travel the country, and while I'm doing that in the RV with my now 5 cats, I'm going to continue to consult that way. I think that's quite appropriate. It means that I can enjoy some of the U.S. and the national forests and parks and all the great people that are out there as I travel up the east and west coast and down the center. What I don't want to do is be chained in this office anymore. So I quite adequately do the job. I just don't want to do it thousands of times every month anymore. Okay, so case by case. Moving on from there, let me take a swig of the old Red Bull. Mouthful this morning. You know what I love about these? It's only got a couple things in here. No sodium, no fat, virtually no sugar at all, no proteins, and it just gives you B12 and niacin. That's it. It's not nearly as bad as a poison in most of those energy drinks. Okay, so this was the original, the OG energy drink, and no, Red Bull didn't hire me to advertise for them. I'm just suggesting that if I'm going to make a bad decision, I've decided to make a bad decision getting Red Bull. I know many of you argue, don't do that, Jay. Don't drink that. All right, Carrie knows I remember that Jay Frosty. Yeah, I bet you do. A lot of us remember the old Frosty in Texas. Yo, happy Sunday. Well, thank you, Daniel Alvarez. Karen No goes on. Smiley faces and emojis. Karen knows 100%. Muskogee Land, welcome back. You become a regular. We're going to have to assign you a bar stool here in the channel because I see Muskogee Land's always joining. I feel horrible about the 300 people in the building, but the MHA employee told me that the hammer could come down. The hammer's coming down this month for many people across the nation. It doesn't seem to be a way to reverse this. Probably people are trying to sue, but we're gonna end up in a tight situation next year. All right, Moodum Neckhair knows a lot of emojis, a lot more for everybody else there. So let's talk about Kiki, since nobody's doing no hot talking. So approximately 48 hours ago, late at night, I decided I was going to run to the gas station and get a snackaroo, okay, which is usually a Slim Jim. Sometimes I even get little chips and maybe a tea. And so I went up there and to get my little snack and go back and watch other YouTube creators as I enjoy doing at night. And see a car going about 35, maybe 40, passing by the gas station, flings a cat out the window. And originally, the original story I gave you guys, I didn't want to discuss it in that manner, so I just placed the conversation as the cat kind of was dropped off at the gas station because it was still a hot, sensitive topic for me. In fact, that night, there were many things that rolled through my mind about chasing that fucker down and absolutely destroying him on just country style ass whooping, I'm about a 300-pound guy. I'm not an MFA fighter, okay, but that is the most egregious thing I'd ever seen in my life. So here's the deal. I got her. She was scared to death. That cat didn't deserve that. It's actually a kitten. It's not even a grown cat, thank God. The fact that she's still developing is probably the reason every bone in her body is not broken right now. But she did suffer damage. Took her to the vet yesterday around 4:30. She is now partially deaf in her left ear, and she has a spiral fracture in one of her legs, which is going to be extremely hard to heal. As you can see, she's not with me right now and will not be for a while. She's going to be at the vet's office 4 or 5 days. So you don't need to take my word for that. You guys contact the vet. But I have set up a little GoFund, and I have occasionally. But I want to make something very clear. Me and my cats are my financial responsibility. I'll set up the GoFundMe because some of you asked about it, okay? So I'm not here to solicit anybody to do anything. Let's just make that crystal clear. I've always cared for my own, my passion, and my love in life to help these helpless animals. And so I'm not here to solicit anything. I'm just going to put it as plainly as I put it in our GoFund. for those that want to contribute, maybe helping out with a cat collar or so on. But nobody, I don't want anybody that decides if they want to give something that you need to give a bunch of money or something like that. You don't need to do that. $1 or a couple of dollars is fine if you wish to. This should be on your soul, okay? Not because I've had something to say. Yes, she's injured, and I'm paying for that. I'm fine with that. On a difficult year, sometimes I paid out as much as 8,000 and 10,000, through our company to care for abandoned and abused pets. That's my passion, my calling to things, and that's my contribution to this planet. If you wish to get involved in that and you appreciate our cats and all to entertain you in the video, then you may do the GoFund thing. And I'm going to put up a link, and we have a QR code up there. But don't feel obligated, okay? I don't want to run any kind of scam here, okay? This is just about me and the old cats. So I'll put up. Let me grab the link real quick, because I know a lot of you guys ask about it. I mean, it's a big part of what we do here. It's also a good moral. Having these cats and the way that we deal with them is a sign of the type of person that I am, hopefully. So here's a link to our GoFund. Again, please do not donate any serious money for any of these that even comes across your mind. $1 or $2 if you wish to. We lots of things we can get, treats. Also, I'm going to publish our business address. If you guys have extra treats, you don't even need to donate money. If you got extra treats, you got a cat call laying around, and you're not doing nothing with it, you can't sell it at the garage sale, then I'm sure this new kitten would have quite enjoyed it. We have several cats. I got Gracie. She's 26 years old. She's a very old kiki. She loves treats. She got old cat food and all. As long as it's safe stuff, then our office will accept it. Nothing big here. We're just being mindful of the holidays and the care and the welfare and care of other animals. And we need to remember that, because as I've lectured in many of my videos, at the end of the day, there's one thing in this world that will not screw you over, and it's usually your pets. They love you unconditionally. They would never do anything to harm you. They appreciate you and love you without judgment. That's something you don't even get in the public. You fight for her even when you're married and in a family, right? That animal gives you the same love and respect every day, regardless of the shitty person you might be, okay? Just like that cat gave that drug addict love, and in return it received partial deafness and a broken leg because that junkie bitch did that. And I'm still unresolved at this point. I know that we're trying to get the footage from that gas station, and no matter what happens, if I have to spend $5,000, I will take that case to the district attorney's office in Harris County, and I will prosecute that fucker. I don't care how much money I've got to spend to find this bitch, but I'm going to ensure he remembers my ass. I'm grateful that I was old enough to walk away from going and brutalizing that kid for doing that. And I do say he's a drug addict because I can't think of, based on appearance, having tattoos from head to toe and the odd behavior that I saw while going by, certainly is not a person that is existing in the realm of normalcy, okay? But nothing excuses that. And one day that child's going to grow up, and he's going to have somebody else to answer to when he takes his last breath. And I hope that little fucker gets exactly what's coming to him. Because if the world treats him half as bad as he just treated that cat, then that bitch will be living in the forest. And you need not contact my office. If anything, you contact my office needing help, let me tell you, I'll contact and put out alert to every housing authority in America and destroy you. You will never fucking see housing ever in your lifetime, unless it's inside a prison cell. I cannot stand people like that. I don't even understand why they exist. It's a good thing I'm not God, because I would extinguish that bitch, really. So I'm going to stop talking about it, because it really, to sit here and have to go through this, doing this shit right before holidays, but that's okay. That cat's going to pick some limits and best life. I'll get it to regain its trust. I'll, over time, make that cat will forget, and he'll go on and destroy his life. So I don't even need to deal with him. People like that always destroy themselves. So good luck to you, partner. But don't think that's the end. Don't think you got away with it, because as soon as I get that footage, your ass is grass. Okay? I'll call my business attorney and we will continue to hound, pester, and push this shit through. I think we need to change our laws and start making more felonies out of this stuff. So, that being said, I'm waiting on, hopefully, our new cleaner. We've had a rough time trying to keep people help out, trying to keep a house up. Plus, the Albus has been a monumental project, and I can't indenture my employees to do that. So we're hoping for that, because when you have a lot of cats, you got to keep things pretty clean. We had to change sheets quite frequently. I probably burned through thousands of dollars in sheets just trying to. Cats love to sleep on the bed. And I'm missing old girl tonight. Also on our community page, you want to check it out. We're still thinking about names. A lot of you have chimed in, and I'm listening. I'm listening about those names. We're not decided, but typically I give cats about 3 names. And the reason is we have a name that we call our cats. We call them Kikis and Chichis, and that's because of serving food. We want all the cats to come at the same time so they recognize the girls are Chichis, the boys are Kikis, and that works very well. Then we have their actual names, and then we have their nicknames. So all my cats have about 3 names, and they know them all. So we haven't figured out all 3 names for her yet. We're waiting for that one thing that makes her her. And she appears to be a regular cat, but she has some very close look to possibly some Siamese. I think she has a little bit of Siamese in her. She's coal black. She's got a touch of white on her tail. She has a white diamond on her forehead here, and just a slight glaze of every now and then a little white hairs through the sides. She has a super chill personality. And even the night she stayed with me, she laid on my neck, kept me up to 3 in the morning with her perma going. And I didn't mind. It made me docile in the video yesterday because I hadn't had any sleep. Now I laid up anyways without her and worried about her all night because I don't want her to feel abandoned. But we cannot have a cat walking on a spiral fracture on a leg, a femur like that. We need to get that healed. And sad that she may ultimately be deaf in that ear because of that stupid asshole. But I'd rather her hear a little less out of one ear than to have to deal with putting her down. And I don't want to do that. And there's no reason to do that. So she's fixing to live her best life. She'll be like a lot of you old ladies out there. She'll be having a hard time here. She'll have to order her cat treat. She'll have to ask twice about it. So I'm looking forward to getting her back. And when she gets back, we'll bring her in the video. Hopefully she'll be restored. I think she will. I know they also gave her fluids, so the IV fluid at her, so she should start. She appears, even I in the pedigree, she's half the weight she should be. So clearly the meth addict wasn't feeding her. Don't think her growth's going to be stunted. But we should be able to get her weight back on her. So our goal is to get a half a pound on her through about a week worth of a high fat diet and then moving to proteins. And then if she starts to stabilize, then we can get her on regular food. It's just so, I don't understand why people need to do this to their pets. If you didn't want the fucking cat, man, all you got to do, man, is drive the gas station and literally just drop it off, okay? I don't even like that. But if you know that you're a junkie, just do that. Okay? Go OD somewhere else. Leave the cat. Bring it to the pet store somewhere. You don't need to act like a little asshole to do that, okay? So that's the reason why I was rather reluctant to bring up the serious nature of her in the beginning of that video and rather played it as just a drop off. It wasn't a drop off. It was a crime being committed. So there we are. I'm going to check my phone and see if our new lady's coming to help us out with the cleaning, and then we may be winding up this video. Okay. Says she's an hour away. Another person I hired in town that lives in Galveston kind of deal, so she probably ain't going to work out. Moving on from there, learning experience of all us, even the sad things. Of course, that's what part of life is. Trying to accept those horrible moments in life, but also understanding what it means to be grown and act reasonably and responsibly. That's why there were no shots fired. Margarita Harris, thank you for the prayer hands. I'm sure my Kiki will appreciate it. And I want you guys to chime in on our community page because she needs a name. I don't want her coming back to my address and my home, her home now, without a name. So quite deserving of her new life, so she doesn't have to deal with insufferable people, breathe in methamphetamine fumes, and be starved to death with the pleasure of a demon. So I'll be quite glad to have her back. John and Berger, the solution is the end of Section 8 housing, give the money directly to the people. Well, we discussed that solution as well, and it may be a potential future part of that in Section 8 housing and federal programs. But as it stands now, President Trump was the first one to make major changes to that system because it's broken, and this is how he would like to carry that out. I don't see any American president wanting to revive what this program used to be again, okay? Because the American public isn't going to want that. So I understand what our tax base is thinking in regards to this. But we do need the existence of housing for taxpayers in certain circumstances where disabled and seniors and disabled children. So there is a need. But we gotta reel it in a bit. We cannot, and a lot of this money. One of the bigger problems is it's not so much the homeless or people usually using the system. It's that we run it through organizations like public housing authorities and nonprofits. They steal almost 80% of the money, and I call it stealing because anytime the government hands out money and when it rinses through a public housing authority or a nonprofit and they take 80% of the money and deliver virtually nothing, then they're stealing from the American tax base. So while it is the news would play it as here are the homeless people smoking crack, doing drugs, and all this other shit, it's really not reality. Only a small fraction of people do that are in this, and most of the money is stolen before it even gets to them. And so that's my concern: is America has been bamboozled by news agencies that love to report on extreme things. There are some news agencies that would, in the '80s, man, they would publish highly prejudicial news articles suggesting that this was a complete involvement of African American people, when in fact there are more people that are white on it, And so we're trying to correct the errors of the '80s and '90s where news is highly prejudicial. Now it's highly political. It's like we go through generations of craziness, but in the core of all of this, there are people that need help, and anybody that's worked a job and paid taxes, as a red-blooded American, you absolutely have the right to ask for help. That's why the system was put in place. You don't feel bad when you walk out to your mailbox to get your Social Security check. You're not ashamed of that. Then why the fuck would you be ashamed of asking for help if you actually really needed it and you qualified? And that's the reality. You pay taxes. Those taxes help pay for this, and if you need it. But we cannot have people on housing for 35 years. Okay? There's a hand up, and then there's just complete welfare. And so we as a country cannot be a welfare state. I believe the current president, President Trump, is trying to prevent a complete welfare state because it's attracting too much issues in terms of immigration. If people know that Americans are willing to give a free ride, then we're going to end up building a country with people that want to use a system that they've never paid into. I don't agree with that. If shit, even the Canadians don't put up with that shit. They'll put you out of Canada for that. If you went down to India and you said, hey, you go down to local state, hey man, I need some food stamps, a bus pass, I need free housing. Them Indian people kick your ass out of their country. We're the only lunatics that do this shit. So, only thing is, President Trump said, you know what? We're going to put a limit on the deal. We're going to change it up, test some theories, see if it works out. But we can't have people on it for no 30, 50 years. I'm a Section 8 consultant. It's my job, literally, to represent the interest of Section 8 and the people that need it. But even I recognize this is fucking flawed. Okay? I've had people contact me. You could see it was a welfare game. And I declined because I'm not going, nor I or my office is going to commit fraud to help somebody go sit on their ass. Okay? I understand people have homes and things happen, houses burn down, they have hurricanes, snowstorms, and fires. And sometimes you're surviving because your husband left and you're on your own, or you're a senior or disabled. So we're all good with that, but we're not going to mechanize the system to service ourselves so we can spend the rest of our life just popping one flip flop around town and acting like a prostitute. I'm not going to support shit like that. And many young adults have contacted me. I'd hung up on their ass. Go to Popeyes, bitch, and get a job. Okay? My services aren't for you. Now, that's after I already questioned them and determined there was nothing wrong with them other than the way their brain works. Sense of self entitlement, I don't support that. What I support are people that have paid into a system that have a critical problem and need a hand up. And for those permanently disabled or seniors, I'll support the long term use of vouchers for that. What I don't support is fraud. I'm not going to help an 18-year-old with no incentive. So go clock in at fucking McDonald's, get ready to be the fry daddy, okay? Because you're not sitting up in those Section 8 houses. My office won't get it for you, okay? There are too many hardworking young individuals out there, both black, white, and Mexican, that can sit and work at restaurants. And if they can work, those young adults can do that, so can your ass. So, for those that qualify reasonably, I'm happy to help. But there ain't no free rides. That'd be like me running a company and say, hey, here's part of my paycheck. Nah, man, look, get out in that backyard, start raking some leaves, do something. My sentiments are the same. A lot of you guys argue this point like I'm somehow trying to help the entire country commit fraud. That's not true. I'm as red blooded as the rest of you. I support what's good for this country. Sometimes I support it even when it's shitty, but that's how it goes. You know. So I hope y'all see it from my perspective. I'm a taxpayer too, and so I don't think at the end of the day I'm not just a company. I'm also an individual. And I care about things and I care about people immensely, just like I do these cats. And so it's important that we keep a straight perspective on what's happening. Otherwise, this fucking country is going to be fleeced. Okay? So there may come a time and day in the future where they start kicking people out the country for just sitting around and bullshitting. You know? Other countries have tried that. Okay? Shipping off their criminals. There may come a time and age when if you can't do what it takes to contribute to the American society, then your ass has got to go. So I'm glad it's not that way. That's part of the freedoms of the country. But at the same time, we can't do the old welfare game. I've had people call me, hey, I hear you can help with welfare, and I know that's one of those calls I have to hang up on and just give their money back because I don't deal in delusional people. I don't sell unicorns and fantasies. You need help getting out of a difficult situation. I'll support you 1,000%. But I'm not going to commit fraud. I'm not going to rig the system in your favor. I understand the system is rigged, and I unrig it for people that actually need it and can benefit from it morally, ethically. But I'm just not going to play that game with those that simply are in it to collect another thing. Well, I've collected a food stamp card, I got a bus card, I've got welfare checks, I got disability checks. Now I'd like some free house. I can tell you fuck off. Okay? Stop being a collector. Go out there and be a doer. Go do something for your fellow man. Do something for America. Show me that you care about this country. Okay? Be an American. Don't be an asshole. All right, so now we've given a speech to the weather and all across the board. I'm going to wrap this up. I've enjoyed talking with you this morning, and I'm going to give you that link for the Kiki again. Again, nobody's under any obligation to do anything. It's just there if you decide you want to chip in for the Kiki, and we hopefully have her back in a week. If you want to see some other cats, view some other videos. There was a circumstance where I had Pops, my orange cat, holding him like a baby, patting the stomach. You could teach a cat to do that if you wanted, so I'm not trying to create a situation, but our cats are quite crazy, and I enjoy them a lot. They're the best stress reliever you'd ever have, because they're always happy to see you. Think about how many people can't stand us, and your pets are always there for you, man. They'll love you through anything. So that being said, guys, I've enjoyed this morning. I hope to make another video this afternoon, either a short one or another long breather. And we can talk a little further about some of the newer programs coming out for Section 8 in 2026. All right. Well, have a great day. Bye-bye.